Well, summertime is upon us, and it is time for us to have some fun, spend some time at the pool, go to the beach, go to the lake, go on vacation, do all those things that we enjoy doing during the summer, including sleeping in for many of you. But but it's also time while other people are relaxing and resting. This is the time for you to separate yourself by having the most productive summer of your high school career. John and I are going to talk about that today in this episode of Committed, the College Admission Playbook. John, how you doing, my man?
Sun's out, Rennie. Life is good.
Man, I tell you, it is summertime, right? We're recording this the Tuesday after Memorial Day weekend. Did you have a good time with your family over Memorial Day weekend?
I
Anything
did.
exciting?
I did. Spend time at the lake, actually. So
Nice.
had a lot of family time, a lot of sun. It was, with the kids, so it's, active, but fun.
Active. That's right. I got to play some golf. I got to spend time with my girls, they are definitely at the age. My daughters are a rising sophomore and a rising eighth grader, and they both take great pride in how late they can sleep. And so, mom and dad hit the golf course in the morning early and come back about just before lunch, and they're ready to have lunch and hang out. So, also did some good honeydews as a good husband that I am. Cleaned up the pool, got the pool rocking and rolling, got the grill cleaned and primed. Did some good barbecuing, and so yeah, good
You earned
stuff.
your,
Did a little
you
bit of
earned,
work.
you
Try
earned
not
your
to do
keep.
too much work. And I'm
You
sure
earned
our
your keep.
students, man, you guys are out of school, ready to enjoy your summer. But John and I today want to share with you some things that shouldn't overwhelm your summer. Okay, we don't want to do that, but there are some small things you can do that will make a huge difference. Because remember, your classmates and colleagues are, having fun and doing the things they should do, but there are things that you can do that will separate yourself from the rest of your classmates. For better or for worse, that'll separate yourself from the competition. Today, we're going to talk about the 10 things you can do this summer to separate yourself from the competition and make this the most productive summer of your high school career. John, you're going to lead us off with number 10. Number 10, read a book. John, tell
Read a
us about
book.
that.
Read a book. We're at a time now where, reading, people are doing it less and less. It seems like even the curriculums within the high schools,
Yeah.
there's less reading, more videos, more lectures online. The reason that we think this is important, and as you'll see as we get through the list, it is designed for any students throughout high school, probably geared a little bit more towards the rising seniors, just because time is pretty soon as of the essence. So we think reading a book is so important for a number of reasons. Now the testing is starting to circulate back, and more schools are starting to reveal that we are no longer test optional, or we may be test optional for fall 2025s. But now that those tests are pretty consistently trickling back in, there is no better data that shows that the students who read more consistently, and I'll even throw it out there, who read for fun, usually better standardized test takers.
Yeah.
So the more you read, your comprehension is improved, the speed in which you can read is improved, and it doesn't have to be, a test prep book. It doesn't have to be some sort of textbook. Read for fun. Go by the pool, go in the sun, go under an umbrella, go in a field, and read any genre, read anything that you want. Just get your mind flowing.
Yeah.
So that's why reason one, from a test prep standpoint, reading, there's no better way to prep without actually prepping.
Yeah.
Number two, more specific to our rising seniors, in addition to your application essays, which we will get to here in a minute, there are a number of supplemental essays that these schools require that usually involve some sort of what is the last 5 books that you've read. Rennie, you were saying offline, Arkansas, specific example.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What is your favorite book? What is your favorite genre? What are the 5 last books that you read, whether it was a required reading for school or just because of entertainment?
Yeah.
So for a number of reasons, as silly as it sounds and as easy as it sounds, throw reading on your summer list.
Yep. I agree. I think it's a, whether you're a reader or not, this is just a reality that's going to make you better in so many ways. It's going to keep your mind going, right? And so it's also going to help us get ready for test prep, like John told us, and the applications. There will be applications that ask about your favorite books. John, what's your favorite book of all time?
Oh boy, I'm a big fan of Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh
Anything,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
now granted, if I'm going to read, I have two types of moods. I'm either reading murder mystery, some sort
Uh-huh.
of,
True crime.
something to
Yeah.
keep me on the
Yeah.
edge of my seat, or I'm reading Malcolm Gladwell
Yeah.
because I'm fascinated by motivation and leadership and just ways to consistently try to better myself.
Yeah. My favorite book of all time is To Kill a Mockingbird. That is without a doubt my favorite book of all time. I just enjoy that. It really changed the way I embraced reading. It changed the way I embraced reading at a young age. And so it had an impact on me and, changed the way I can remember the thoughts that I had going through my head when I was reading that book, how I felt for Boo Radley and for the drama and the racism that was in that book. And so those are why I'm asking that question. And while we're talking about that, those are the types of things that you might have to answer in a comment or into a supplement essay. It is not just a book report, but what did that book make you think? What did that book make you feel? And how did that book change you? So those are the things you can be looking for reading a book. So that's number 10. Item number 10 is read a book. Number
Good one.
9, John, number 9 is get a job. Get a job.
Get a job. Okay. I think a lot of students, they underestimate the importance of getting a summer job, part-time job. It's important for so many reasons. Earn a little bit of extra cash so you don't have to badger your parents. But the amount of responsibility and the lessons that you learn, the relationships that you build with coworkers and with bosses, throw away you know what, I'm going to get a job to build up my resume. That's just kind of an afterthought. It's an
Yeah.
added perk. But the experience that you get getting a job, learning how to interact with coworkers, learning how to communicate effectively with management, those are invaluable. That's going to
100.
help you. It's the jumpstart of your career,
Yeah.
honestly. I
Yeah.
mean, this summer job where you're working at an ice cream shop or you're a cashier or you're doing food service, you might not think it now, but the things that you learn now will forever shape you into the type of employee that you will be down the road.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, especially for those students, if you're trying to figure out what teamwork is like and you've never participated in a team sport, working is going to teach you what teamwork is like because in almost every work environment, there's team involved. So you have the value of teamwork, you have the value of responsibility, you have the values of learning and growth mindset. You have the value of service if you're going to be doing in the service industry. There's so much you can learn from having a job that that not only will help you economically, but it'll help you educationally, and you can translate those to being a better college student. So get a job is a great one, and you have more time during the summer probably, so it's a great time to get a job. Number eight. Number 8. Now remember, number 9 was get a job. Number 10 was read a book. Number 8 is tour campuses. Now I would argue that it's not the prime time to tour campuses for one reason, right? Is that the life of the campus really typically isn't there, right? The life of a campus is a student body. So school's not in session. And so you really don't get the full feel of the college during the summer. However, because your schedules are so busy, right? Because you're traveling probably during the summer, it's a great time for tour campuses, get a chance to get a feel for the environment, right? And the lay of the campus, if you like the campus, and it's a great time to meet with admissions counselors and get to build that relationship. Now, I consider campus tours in 2 ways. Number one, there is the informal campus tour, right? There's the informal campus tour. It's the tour to where, hey, I'm driving through I'm driving through Waco and I'm just going to take the time to drive around the campus of Baylor. I'm driving through Lexington, Kentucky, and I'm going to take time to drive around the campus of the University of Kentucky, right? That's the informal thing. You're in Lawrence, Kansas for a soccer tournament. Drive around the University of Kansas. This is just going to open your eyes to how these campuses are so much different. But then there is the most important, right? At some point, we need to do formal campus visits, right? We have the opportunity to meet with admissions counselors, like I said, take a formal campus tour so you can see what's inside the buildings and see everything and learn everything about what the school has to offer and learn more about the admissions process and even scholarships and special programs they have. So it's a great time, right? Just know that the downside of touring during the summer are the students aren't on campus. And so you want to come back later to get a feel for that. But it's a great time and a great way to get an initial feel for the campus. So number 8 is tour campuses. Number 9 is get a job. Number 10 is read a book. Number seven is career and job discovery activities. This is a great one. And so many students don't think about it. I just got out of a college planning meeting this morning with a student. She's probably going to run track and cross country in college. And she wants to be a dental hygienist. And so as we talked about beefing up her resume before her senior year, we were talking about things she could do. And one of the things she's going to go do is she's going to contact her dentist and her dental hygienist and see if she can go job shadow a few times. Just go in and watch what they do. I think it's going to be a great activity for the student because she'll get a better understanding of what's the day-to-day work, what's the work environment really like for a dental hygienist. All right, this can help for her educate her on whether that's something that she truly wants to do, right? It's also then something that she can then speak to in her application, right? That adds more depth to a supplemental question that might be about why she wants to study what she wants to study. It shows the reader that this is someone who's serious about her career, right? And is taking the time to learn more about it. So I don't know. Have you ever had any students do a job shadowing and how tips on how they can get those opportunities?
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. There is no better way to gain exposure to the field that you're considering than seeing it firsthand.
Yeah.
The experience, to answer your question, the one that stands out most to me, a couple years ago, I had a student who initially all she thought about was becoming a veterinarian. Loved animals, wanted to help sick animals, wanted to open up her own vet clinic.
Yeah.
Reached out to a local vet, set up a time. What happened was so effective and so important, but it wasn't what you expect. So for a student who loves animals, who went in there, she left there saying, there's no possible way that I could become a veterinarian. What she thought the job was and what
Yeah.
it actually was, two entirely different things. She was there maybe 5, 6 hours.
Yeah.
And they put down however many kittens and however many puppies. And it was an aspect of the job that she thought nothing about. And she only saw the side of, okay, I'm going to help all these sick animals. But what about the ones that couldn't be fixed or
Yeah.
just for whatever reason they needed to be put down?
Yeah.
And it totally shifted her trajectory as far as what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to shift that trajectory as a junior in high school or as a senior in high school versus being a pre-vet kid at 20 years old, junior year of college.
Yeah.
So important.
Cost a
And
lot less too.
oh my God, yeah. So I mean, Rennie, really think about it. With the amount of jobs out there and the way that the landscape of the job market's shifting and so many new careers that are out there compared to 10, 20 years ago. Until you see it, you do not know. And a lot of the exposure is coming from TikTok and Netflix and social media, and it's glorifying a lot of these positions. Forensic design, or I'm sorry, forensic science is a huge one where I'm guilty too. I love anything criminal minds. But the media portrays it as like this very sexy career when realistically, if you think about it, you're spending more time in a lab running DNA. So, I mean, it's just go see it for yourself.
Yeah, I think it's so helpful. It's so helpful. And either way it turns out, it's going to be beneficial to you as a student anything, any way it turns out, it's going to be beneficial to you. All right. So we have read a book, we have get a job, we have tour campuses, we have career and job discovery, internship, shadowing, that type of thing. Number 6, John, students
Volunteer.
can volunteer, man. Tell us about
Volunteer.
volunteering.
We live in a world where there's people who are privileged, there's people who are in very good positions. And then we also live in a world where there's people who are not that blessed.
Yeah.
So for anybody, children specifically, for the sake of this, go do something to impact somebody else. There's nothing more rewarding than putting yourself aside, realizing how blessed you truly are by go and making a difference for someone else. And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. The smallest act of kindness can make somebody's day. So whether you're going to a food pantry, whether you're going to an animal shelter, whether you're going to a nursing home, there's so many opportunities. There's Special Olympics. Yeah, it's a great resume booster, but that's not what's important. What's important is realizing what we have and spreading the wealth, carrying it forward.
Yeah. I mean, our whole goal is, we pride ourselves in not creating students who are resume builders. That's not the goal. The goal is to help coach and help encourage great students who happen to have great resumes, right? And so
Well
being
said.
able to help students find their passion, being able to help educate students in the power and the importance of serving others is so important. And students are busy, right? The students today are much busier than I was when I was a high school student. The summer time is a great opportunity to find those volunteer opportunities and spend some of your summer serving other people and then discovering your passions for serving and for those that you enjoy serving. So volunteering is great. All right, number 5. This is specifically for our rising seniors, but number 5 is to begin working on your Common App. Begin working on your Common App. Many schools will use the Common App as their preferred application for admission. Okay. And you can also, through the Common App, apply to some scholarships and some of the general scholarships at universities and colleges across the country. So the summer is a great time to start working on your Common App. Now, many people would say, well, it doesn't open until August 1st. That's correct, right? August 1st is when it goes live for the class of 25, right? And this is when you will know about all your supplemental essays that different colleges may require. You'll learn all of those details on the specific information that they want. That does not mean you can't start working on your. You can go in and build your profile, create an account, and build your profile just by looking at that Common App tab. You can start working on just the general information about yourself, about your family members, about your ACT, your SAT scores, AP test, activities, just the general things that it takes a little bit of time. But it's not about just completing that section. It's about making that section as competitive as possible. So you don't go through it fast, you go through it purposefully. And so I think a great thing for a student to start doing right now is start working through that Common App tab, just the general information that every school is going to receive about you, and taking time purposefully to not just complete it, but to make it as competitive as possible. That's what we do with our students to help them really separate themselves from a completed application to a competitive application. What would you add around the Common App and what they can do right now?
Well, piggybacking. So you explained everything great. The one thing to keep note of when you get into the Common App profile, specifically the activities. So that's the college resume, quote unquote. And Rennie used the perfect word, purposeful, because once you get into each activity, so the Common App allows students to list up to 10 activities, categorize it, put the role, the organization, and then you want to be really mindful of how you're going to describe that activity, because you get 150 characters to describe what you accomplished, what your position was, what you got out of the experience. So you want to spend time. And that's why it's great to kind of, kick things off early, is because you want to be mindful of how am I going to utilize those 2 sentences the best way possible?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So number 5, for those rising seniors, you can start working on your Common App. You can start working on your Common App. Number 6, all students can do is they can engage in some more volunteering. Number 7, all students can work on career shadowing, career interest, career discovery activities. Number 8, all students can do touring campuses and visiting campuses. Number 9, all students can do is, if they're of age to work, is to get a job. And number 10, all students can do is they can, got it, read a book. Now, number four is really something all students can do. Just the difference in the conversation might be based on what age you're at, whether you're a 9th, 10th, or 11th grader, right? Or a rising senior. And that's around determining your standardized testing strategy. John, tell us a little bit about that, the things that should be going through your mind and you should be considering when you're thinking about your testing strategy.
The timing for this is so important. And I mentioned it briefly when we were talking about the reading tip. A lot of schools are starting to now release decisions, whether they're going to remain test optional or if they're going to now bring back test scores. You want to be careful and you want to be aware of the schools on your list. What is their policy? Because if you have a freshman or a sophomore and they're currently test optional, you might want to keep an eye on their testing policies, because for the class of 2026, 27, 28, that could be changing. Now, I think this summer is going to be key because a lot of schools, I think this summer, are still determining whether or not we want to bring them back for 2025s. So from a testing strategy standpoint, what we recommend, and we're having a lot of these conversations now, you want to identify, okay, the schools on my list, which ones are test optional, which ones are not, and then looking at it from what is going to make you the most competitive. And Rennie, I'm sure you get this question constantly. What's a good SAT score?
Yeah, right.
It depends on your GPA and it depends on your starting point.
Yeah.
So when schools allow us to choose, the rule of thumb typically is, depending on your GPA, does your SAT score and or ACT score, does it enhance your academic review, or does it get in the way? And then they start to maybe ask questions about, okay, this student has a 4.0 GPA, but they have a 950 SAT.
Yeah.
So we want them to either counterbalance or be consistent.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
from a strategy standpoint, you are determining which schools require them, which ones do not. When they do not, what is the score worthy of sending? And there's two components to this. It's one thing to get into a school. Great. Congratulations. It's another thing to get in and then also get scholarship money.
Yeah.
And, I hate the blanket statement that we all have to use constantly is it depends on the school. Every school is going to have a different scholarship tier system. And that's where the research comes in. You want to make sure, okay, if I'm going to go test optional, yeah, I might improve my chances of getting in. But if you don't submit a score that could have given you money, you missed out on some cash.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of vetting, a lot of research.
I think that's a great aspect of testing strategy, is to figure out how we're going to use the test or not use the test and leverage the test to maximize our opportunities as far as admission and for scholarships. I think a flip side of that also is that it's also a great time to, while it's not a fun thing to do, it's a great time to work on your school, right? To do a prep class, to do some reviewing. Most students typically don't have other academic responsibilities during the summer. This is a great time as far as a strategy to work on your prep as well. But do not forget, guys, the standardized test. As John mentioned earlier, we see it coming back as a required admission standard for more and more schools every year. And we want to just be strategic and intentional about how we leverage that or don't leverage that with the different schools we take. That's number 4. Number three.
We're at the top 3 now. Okay.
Top 3. Here we go.
We're going to get heavy.
This is specifically for our rising seniors, John. Man, they need to start working and ideally complete their personal statement for college admissions. That Common App essay, that 650-word essay.
All right, so
So vital.
Rennie, can I jump in and ask you a question?
Please, please do.
What's your best advice for a senior? They pull up the prompt sheet, they see, okay, here's the 7 items that I can choose from. What advice do you typically give from a student starting?
I tell them to put the prompt sheet away. Put the prompt sheet away and just go through a process that we would call create. First of all, just create. Well, what does that mean? You know, there's just different. I want you to start thinking about things that has happened in your life, right? So many students don't think that they have anything to write about. Well, the key mistakes so many college essays involve, and I've read thousands as an admissions officer, and I've guided hundreds of students through writing theirs, is the number one thing they forget is that the star of this story is them. The story is about you as a student. You are not a supporting actor or a supporting actress. You're not in the background. Other people are supporting characters. Other people, other events and things that have happened in your life are context to the story. But this is a story about you. And so you need to be thinking about your proudest moment, times you've disappointed yourself. What are you scared of? What are you hopeful for? Just start thinking of things and just start journaling like you're writing to yourself. I mean, if we're going to make a sculpture, the first thing we need is some clay. And the clay for a college essay is simply this: your words on paper about things that have happened in your life. Maybe it's about your values. Whatever it might be, we just need to start journaling about the proudest moment, lessons you learned from your parents, lessons you learned from teachers. How did you how did you respond to a great disappointment, a great defeat in your life? How did you respond to a great victory in your life? What's your favorite book you've ever read? I think we've talked about that already. Why did you like that book? Just start writing about key moments in your life. Just think about what key defining moments you've had in life, and you get that on paper. That's what we create. Then the second thing we do is we craft. Second thing we do is craft. We craft a story, right? People love to read stories. They do not necessarily love to read essays, right? And so this is not the classic, hey, here's the introduction, here's point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, and then the fifth paragraph is the conclusion. That is not what this is about. This is a personal statement about you and what you have to bring to the college. And so we go from create to start crafting a story and using traditional storylines. And once again, you're the star, you're the protagonist of the story, and you have been on a journey, and it had a culminating moment, a defining moment that you learned something. And ultimately, we have to answer the question, so what? Why does this matter? Because your reader is an admissions officer, and they want to read a story that's about you that ultimately tells them why you should be admitted to that college or university. And then the third one is we polish it, right? We spend time in the last 2 weeks of June just polishing and editing it. We use things like Grammarly. We use things like spell check, basic things to make sure it's really polished and really good. And ideally, you can have this thing done by August 1st. We let other people read it, get their input on it, and we can have that college essay done. Boom.
Ready to ship out August 1.
Now, John, here's the question that I get a lot about college essays, and I have my personal feeling about it, right? But there's these students that think they can get away with writing a vulnerable, personal, heartfelt essay, and that you can use AI. And they can use AI. John, why are you shaking your head no? Why can't they use Chat GPT to create the essay that we're trying to create here?
I mean, could it be created? Yes. Would it be believable? I don't think so. I don't think you could craft or fake authenticity.
Mm-mm.
I think well, first off, to that point, I think a lot of these schools are aware the technology that's out there. I think they're using their own technology to counteract the technology being utilized.
100%.
And at the end of the day, regardless how good of a writer a kid is, you can't fake being an 18-year-old kid or a 17-year-old kid. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how intellectual you are, how good of a writer you are. They're going to be able to see through it.
That's exactly right. I tell families all the time, they'll say, well, it's not perfect. I said, it's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be written by a 17-year-old to 18-year-old high school senior, right? It's not supposed to, and I can tell as an experienced reader, I can tell when mom and dad wrote the essay. And I'll look at them like, I'm an experienced reader. I can tell. I can tell when it's been written by AI because there's no heart to it. There's no emotion to it. And then, like you said, even though I can't tell, I can run it through an AI detector. And depending on the school's philosophy and standards around AI, that could kick you out immediately. Right.
One more
Yeah.
point to that, Rennie. So just looking at it, I mean, if you're interested in a big, big time public university, private university, that's, 20 to 40,000 student enrollment. I mean, those applications have increased 20% over the last several years. So think about how many essays that an admissions counselor is going to have to read from Clemson or from Chapel Hill or from Purdue. 70, 80,000. You have about 4 lines to grab their attention before they're on to the next. So think
Yes.
about it.
Yeah.
Think about it. So when you're writing it, the weirder, the better. Grab their attention immediately, or you're on the other stack of,
yeah,
there's something better out there.
There's a difference between having the essay looked at and having the essay actually read. And that is where it's an art, and having that consultation, that expert help you. All right, essays are number 3. We're on our top, now down to our top 2. Number 2, Johnny, tell me about parent conversations.
This might be the hardest one on the list. Hardest one on the list, either from a parent perspective or from a student perspective. Because, if you have a rising senior, if you're going through the process correctly, junior year, sophomore year, you should be exploring all of your options. Far away, close to home, big, small, medium, explore what's out there to be able to confirm what is the best fit for you.
Sure.
The sooner students and parents have the hard conversations about what is realistic, the better their senior year becomes. Now, when I say realistic, I'm talking from an academic standpoint, realistic, from a geographic point, realistic, from a financial point, realistic. And we've mentioned this several times about parents doing the things to educate themselves on what is the average GPA that they typically accept? What is their average price point? And not just relying on their students to tell them, oh, I Googled and, University of Miami costs $45,000. Because if you really dig and you don't just rely on Google,
Yeah,
most kids don't get scholarships. Most kids who get in don't get need-based money. So then that sticker price turns into $93,000 a year really quick.
absolutely.
So the sooner that the families can collectively come together and say, okay, this is our price point. Above this number is too much. It's not even worth the time, effort, aggravation to go see, to go apply. People who are looking to buy a Honda do not go and test drive a G-Wagon. You're just setting yourself up for disappointment. So just be realistic about how far away from home would you realistically allow your student to go? How much are you realistically going to allow them to spend?
Yeah.
This might be a hard conversation now, but it's better to have it now before you're too deep into it.
100%.
And you're telling them 2 months before graduation, this isn't going to be possible because it's either too expensive or too far away. Have those conversations now.
Love it. Level set expectations in a moment of ration, in a moment of just sitting down and being thoughtful before the emotions get involved and the stress of making a decision, the stress of, oh my gosh, now they've admitted me, actually, maybe we can make this happen.
Right.
In a moment of rational thought and intentionality. Here's the other thing I'd add: write it down. Write it down. Say, we said we could go to this school if we could get it at this price. We said, write this stuff down so you can refer back to it. So there's no confusion. There's no conflict. You didn't say that. We say, write it down. Write it down.
That's a great
idea. And it's just going to really help bring peace and a lot of more intentionality to the decision-making process. But John, I agree 100%. Parents and students need to be having this conversation now. Start having this conversation now so we don't put in work on things that we don't need to be working, right? Because they don't meet the criteria that the family finds value in. And that's the key thing here is, what does the family value? It's not necessarily about price. It can be about price. It can be about the financials, but what do you value, right? Because I tell people there's two things around value. There's the ability to pay, but there's also the affinity, your willingness to pay that much for. And every family gets to determine what they value. It's kind of like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. And having that conversation is critical. So, guys, we have had our top 10 list. We've had read a book as number 10, get a job at number 9, 8, take time to tour campuses, get on campuses. Number 7 was career discovery opportunities, internships and job shadowing, those types of activities. Number 6, John talked to us about volunteering, getting out and serving. Number 5, we talked about going ahead and starting for a rising senior, their Common App tab, not diving into the specific college applications, but working on that Common App tab. Number 4, a testing strategy of how will you leverage standardized tests and how will you prepare to raise your standardized test scores. Number 3, the importance and some best tips around crafting a great college essay. John just talked to us about number 2, which is the parent conversation. And number 1, equally important, is all of the others. John, what is it?
Have some fun. It's summer.
Oh, yes.
Kid, go have some fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is summer, right? And no matter where you are at in your high school journey, summer is a time to rest. Summer is a time to recreate and to kind of replenish your energy because we know that you as a student have more stress and more to do than any other generation before you. You are busier than ever. And take some time in hopefully a summer schedule that is has a lot more margin or a little bit more margin to rest and enjoy it with your friends and your family and doing the things you love. But at the same time, if you do some of these top 10 things we suggested for you to do, while your other friends are slacking off, this is a time for you to separate yourself. Separate yourself just a little bit to help you be less stressed when the senior year comes and to help you be more successful when those application admissions letters and scholarship letters come in the mail. So, John, any final tips, thoughts for our students as they jump into the summer?
Hopefully these tips help. Hopefully they'll help you get ahead of schedule. So we've always said that, I run a college planning business. Rennie runs multiple college planning businesses. These are the things that we've seen beneficial, we've seen to be helpful. And both of our mottos is systematically take the baby steps now to make life a little bit easier later. And the same rule applies this summer. Step out of your comfort zone just a little bit. Don't sacrifice time with family, friends. Have those relationships, have those experiences. Make the time. Very few people have the time, but the ones who, make the time, those are the ones that rise to the top.
Yeah.
So find that balance. Hopefully this was helpful. And last but not least, go be a kid. Go have fun.
Absolutely. I can't help but remember the comments from your student in a couple of episodes ago when we asked her what her thoughts are in the summer. And she basically just called us all out to get to work, right?
Step it up.
Step it up. And, it doesn't have to be a huge step. It can be small steps. And I think these 10 things are all small little steps you can do this summer to step it up and to have a much less stress-free and more successful college admission season. Guys, thanks for joining us. We always love to have you like this. We love for you to make comments and ask us questions. We'll respond to those. And also make sure that you're sharing this so other people can learn some of this information and can contact us if they need anything. This is Committed, the College Admission Playbook.
Thanks for checking us out.